I just love the world and I love the character, and that was very clear in the script. This sort of, you know, kind of anti-hero, well, somewhat superhero, but also this conflicted sort of beast, you know, this half human, half demon guy who's like struggling to do the right thing. And what I wanted to really bring to it was this internal struggle of, you know, a man or a sort of a beast, kind of this monster, you know, because he is half demon and he, you know, he's a monster, but he goes about killing other monsters. So I think he's in a weird position. And I think especially at the beginning of the film when he kills Camazotz, like Camazotz is a BPRD agent who is also a monster, and he is a BPRD agent who is a monster. So in a sense, he kills himself, and that sets him off on a journey of really kind of questioning like what he's doing and who he is and where his allegiances lie, and why they specifically lie with human beings as opposed to other monsters. I mean, Neil comes approaches the project from a horror background, so he has a real horror film background, which I love that movie, The Descent, that he made. And he really understands sort of like gore and horror and this kind of gothic world of monsters and scares and stuff like that. And so I think that what he's bringing in that realm is terrific, and it's something that he really specializes in. My body couldn't change that much because of the prosthetics that I'm wearing. I needed to fit into this certain mold. But I got a lot stronger and worked on like explosive power moves and some powerlifting and stuff just to have to physically be able to do the things that I do. I mean, I'm like, you know, I'm 42 years old. Like, it's not like I was like 22 anymore. Like, your body just isn't able to do certain things that I used to be able to do. So I did have to go back in the gym and really train to try to develop this body that was powerful. And so I did that. And then I got here to Bulgaria. And for a couple weeks before, I did a lot of stunt training with the guys here. It's not my favorite thing to do. I don't have a lot of machismo about it. If the stunt guy can do it and the camera's not too close on his face, I'd rather him do it because I think that he does it better than me. And there's guys that sort of do those things better. Like, people have jobs that they do things better for. And so I'm very happy when the stunt people can step in. But when it does have to be me, like, I will say the team here is great and they really know how, you know, to get me you know, looking good and in shape. But I also, one of the qualities I like about Hellboy is he's kind of messy as a fighter. I mean, he's kind of a brawler. He's not really a trained like martial artist or a trained MMA guy who really knows how to move. I show up in the morning and I shave. I make sure I'm clean shaven, and I get on, put on this special tank top, and I go in the makeup chair. And there are two people, Heather and Joel. Joel designed the entire look, so, and he also applies it, which is one of the benefits, because I've heard horror stories of people that have had makeup designed by someone and then someone else applies it and they don't apply it in the correct ways and stuff. So I was worried about that, but Joel has been here the whole way. He's designed it in Los Angeles. He flew to Bulgaria. He's here every day putting it on. So Joel and Heather both sit me down in the chair. They put a little bit of lotion on my face. And then they put a bald cap on me. That's why my hair is so long. It's because I never, you know, see it really. So they put a bald cap on me, which they glue down. Then they apply the ears, which are these pointed ears. And then basically what happens is I put in my headphones, listen to music, and lie back. They apply a plastic skull cap to my head that gets glued on in the back, and it's got magnets for the horns. And then they start to apply the face, and the face is a complete silicone mask. So they put glue, zinc powder, and glue all over my face, and then they go in and they apply this mask all over, and they're brushes coming in like this and putting glue and pasting and putting glue and pasting, and then they work on the edges around the eyes so that the edges don't exist anymore. And then I really don't really know what happens. I basically like lie back there for an hour while I get a lot of, it's almost like having a weird facial with like new skin where people are just constantly touching and prodding at your face for like an hour. And I just kind of try to go to sleep and like listen to my music and lie back. And then I come back to reality. They also paint it. They spray paint it. They paint little scars and things like that. And Heather also paints my left hand, which is the only piece of skin that's showing. So she paints my left hand. So once the face is applied, then we put on the body. And what that is this is a very funny process. This is probably the worst part of the process, is that there's this man named Gil who enters in, and he applies KY jelly all over to my arms. They put a bunch of KY all over my arms, and I'm in this tank top, and they slide me into, and it's basically like a wetsuit that zips up the back. And it's a complete suit with neck and everything, and it zips up the back, and it fits my body perfectly like a glove. And then what they do is they glue the silicone from the mask onto the neck, and they make sure the edge doesn't show there. So then we have the body and the face. And then they apply the hair, and that's some mutton chops, the little soul patch, and then the wig, and the horns go on. They glue the horns, some blood around the horns, and the last thing to go in are these yellow contacts, these lenses, which are kind of difficult to wear. They're somewhat painful and difficult to see out of. So there's a special lens tech who comes in, and she applies them, puts eye drops in every 20 minutes or so, and we make sure to have them in only for about 4 hours at a time so that my eyes don't get scratched and stuff. But so as soon as the lenses go in, we sort of get on set and we start to shoot. I've really enjoyed working with Mila. She's such a pro, and especially in terms of these genre movies, like she really understands this world, and she understands like how to, and she really just goes for it. And like, I love that. Like, it's almost like because at the end of the day, it's like dress up. I mean, it's like the greatest game of dress up you could ever play with your friends or something. Like, I'm dressed like a demon, she's like a witch, and we're like casting spells and like chopping each other's heads off and stuff like that. So in that way, she's just real game, and she's not afraid to like really go for it in a way that I feel like other actresses would be a little more sheepish. And so I've really had a good time. And also, like, the other thing about Mila that I love is she just knows how to make a movie. Like, she understands all the elements. And so when we're on set, when we're rehearsing, she understands, like, camera. She understands blocking. She understands lighting. She understands, like, how to get the best movie. But he's just an incredible actor, and he's someone that I've admired my whole life. And so to be able to work with him in this movie and have scenes with him is like, I mean, I sort of got to pinch myself. Like, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. When he signed on to do this, I was like, I just was so excited. And Sasha is great. She's a kid. Like, she's like 12 years old or something. I don't know how old she is, but she's very, very young. But she just has a quality of, she's got, first of all, like on camera, she just is luminous. Like, she has these big eyes, and she's just very beautiful. And but I don't mean that just physically, like she just has this inner sort of luminous quality to her. Daniel's terrific. I mean, Daniel, like, of all the people on set, I do feel like Daniel is like, kind of like a colleague. Like, I sort of view all these different people in different ways, but Daniel and I have have had a similar trajectory where, we're guys who've worked a lot as kind of character guys in television and in film, and now we're doing this movie, and we have a lot of friends in common, a lot of similar experiences. So I do like hanging out with him a lot. So the toughest elements for me have been these stunt sequences. I mean, I think they're really fun too. That's been the thing. Like, there's even this giant fight where like I get to do a lot of fun, silly stuff, like running around these giants, slipping and falling and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, getting giant spit in my mouth and and so it's fun, but it's also, in terms of shooting, it is the hardest stuff to do because, you get really hot, you get really tired, they're long days, and it's very complicated. It's not something that, I'm sort of hired to do a lot. I'm not like, Sylvester Stallone. Like, I'm totally like kind of an art film guy, like doing these big stunt sequences. So it's very difficult to film. There's this fight after the Osiris Club, and I go into this river, and then I come out of the river, and there are these three giants who are eating the remnants of the Osiris Club, and I decide to fight them. And one kind of sneaks up behind me, and the way we shot it, the way it'll be put together in post, is that it's all one shot. It's shot in kind of a oneer, and so we did. But we did a lot of practical stuff on green screen stages. And then we did some stuff work out in the fields with these big swords and these like big, but some of the most fun stuff that I've had fight-wise was this giant fight, because we did it in a big green screen arena, and it's the fight itself takes on a trajectory where, like, at the beginning it's kind of silly. It goes through some very dramatic stages that are scary. It sort of gets, silly again, too, because he's running like a crazy person from these big giants. And then at the end, I think it has a real kind of pathos to it, where he's like murdered these three huge beings, and he's so exhausted and messed up by what's just happened to him. I mean, I think it's a very, very different movie. Like, I really love those other movies. I appreciate them, and I think they did Hellboy in a certain way that Guillermo del Toro saw the world. And this Hellboy is very different, and it's Neil Marshall and my way of seeing this world. And in that way, I do feel like, to a certain degree, it's closer to the Mignola comic. I'm hoping that people kind of laugh, cry, scream in horror, and at the end of the day, really feel for Hellboy and kind of have a very warm experience. Well, Alice and Hellboy have known each other since she was a baby. Hellboy saved her as a baby from this Grugach monster, basically, and from these fairies. He sort of saves her as a child, and then he loses contact with her for years and years, and she winds up kind of helping him after the giant situation. And so they reconnect, but they have a real affinity for each other, like right from the get-go. Like, I think he just trusts her honesty and her, he just likes her. And then, so Daimyo's kind of a jerk. Like, right from the get-go, I think that Hellboy has an antagonistic relationship with him, because Daimyo has a problem with monsters and, really judges Hellboy, and he's very rigid in his approach, and I think Hellboy thinks he's kind of a tool, and so he kind of can't stand Daimyo. And then as the story goes on, these three really gel into a team, and they really sort of find why they all need each other. Hellboy's questioning, like, I don't know, I mean, I sort of feel like I'm not an adopted child, but I sort of feel like it's an interesting adopted child response, is like, why me? Like, why did you save me? What is it about me that's so special? What is it about me that you love? I think that's a very interesting thing. So and then on top of that, he discovers throughout the movie that Broom was actually sent that night when the Nazis spawned him to kill him. And so Hellboy wants to know why he didn't kill him, why he let him live, and even beyond let him live, took him in.